welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And we're here with great friend Yana Lapitskaya from YAi. How are you doing today, Yana?
I'm very good, Bill. Thank you very much. Thanks
Oh,
for having me.
it's great to have you. And obviously today we're talking about content, and there's so many places where people are putting content out, blogs, websites, LinkedIn, kind of every social media app. And obviously there are challenges in that, and YAi is addressing some of those challenges. Do you want to, before we kind of hop into the core topic of content, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing at YAi?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. So at YAi, what we do, we are effectively building the trust layer that fact checks and stops hallucinations in AI content. Probably some of you know that losses from AI hallucinations reached $67 billion in 2024 alone, and it can have adverse effects on entire industries. For example, in healthcare, we know that because of how untrustworthy AI content is, the vast majority of AI adoption projects has been paused or otherwise put on hold because of these uncertainties that AI content creates. So if you're yourself using ChatGPT or similar tools, you probably know that sometimes they make up facts, make up links, and this is a widespread problem. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a news about a Deloitte report that had a made-up quote and, of course, a made-up source for that quote, and they were unfortunately caught by the uh, by the company that has ordered this report. Actually, it was an Australian government, and it was a very unpleasant situation, let's say, for the business. And the mission that YAi has is actually to prevent this from happening by helping businesses to fact check the content, to remove hallucinations from it, and build trust and preserve trust in their brands.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like there are regulatory costs potentially in some industries to fact problems. I would think, certainly healthcare and financial service, and there are very likely others. But there's also reputation and credibility loss as well. So you want to kind of walk us through where the challenges are for companies and
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As you rightly noticed already, there are compliance and regulatory issues that can happen as a result of untrustworthy content distribution, reputational damage, and perhaps something that we come across more or less every day, fake news as well. This is all part of the same problem. We noticed when we started building YAi, we noticed that perhaps professionals across regulated industries have been hit more than others, um, like financial services, healthcare, anywhere where you create consumer-focused content, which is regulated. The problem is that there is more content being created right now than ever before, thanks to AI, and in most cases, the teams that are responsible for creating this content are now spending more than half of their time actually editing the content that has been created. So what we notice is that a lot of the productivity gains that happen in the beginning of the process when you ideate with AI or when you write up the content very quickly, they've been negated further down the line when you actually have to go through this content with a toothpick and make sure that everything that you say is accurate. It has sources that can back up these claims, and it will make sense in the end. So the key risks that we noticed for businesses using AI are perhaps these three: the misinformation risk, when you're basically risking citing incorrect news sources, and at the moment it's happening at about 60% rate. So that's quite alarming. The next one is a legal risk. So we know that even in the best LLMs out there, the hallucinations range from 69 to 88% in responses, especially when it comes to specific legal queries. So this translates into, whole horror stories, like lawyers quoting precedents that didn't exist in the court of law and harming their clients, and so on and so forth. And the financial risk, which therefore is always there. It can be a bit hidden, but for regulated industries, for example, there are usually fines that should be paid in case this happens. So there is a big incentive for them to get things right, but it's just becoming increasingly difficult due to the volume of content being created.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like there's any slowdown in the volume of content, right? I
Oh,
mean, there are every
absolutely.
day there are more websites. Websites are getting deeper and richer in terms of the blogs and so on, content that are on them. And so I would imagine, and AI now is not only developing text, but it's developing video and audio content. It's developing images. Is the problem through all those forms of content?
There is definitely a problem throughout the content types, and it's yeah, it is an issue, but there are tools and methodologies coming up that help to address that. Specifically for video content, there are a number of companies out there that are targeting the deep fakes and the fake news that can proliferate through video as well as imagery. So that's particularly important for the governments, the media, and similar use cases. Same can be said about the imagery. I know at the moment it's a bit of combination of tools that are being used. On the one hand, you have human editors, like for example, in the British Broadcasting Corporation and BBC, there is a whole BBC Verify team that is responsible for spotting the fakes, whether it's an image or a video or else. But I think it would be very useful to have the solution that can do it at scale and in an automated way. Yeah, sure, maybe it will not be foolproof from day one, but it will speed up the work of these people, and it will give them the ability to do their job quicker, better, and across more content. Which, as you said, there is no sign of it slowing down, and some sources say that already by next year we're going to have 90% of online content being AI generated. I think for some content we're already there, perhaps. It just depends on the industry, and it's definitely going that way.
Right. No, that makes total sense. So what does the future look like? Where are we going? And what would be sort of a kind of an optimal way to for companies who are now creating content, what's sort of an optimal way for them to assure that they're whether it's conforming to the regulatory issues or building the credibility that they intend?
No, absolutely. It's not a nice have. It's a must have these days to have a solution for content integrity that makes sure your content is fact checked, free of hallucinations, has the reputable sources, um, correct sources, and attribution to the sources in it. So the the solutions are there, and YAi is one of them with the proprietary content lift framework that we have developed, which is effectively a number of metrics that help to adjust content for regulatory industries and other industries as well, across such metrics as facts and references, clarity, readability, tone of voice, etc. Sources and references are the biggest challenge for sure when it comes to content that is perhaps sensitive or comes from regulated industry. And I think it's the ability to understand that the problem exists, just accepting that the problem exists, and um, being on a lookout for the solutions that will help you to solve this problem according to your scale and need. Because if you are a small company, that maybe creates 3 blogs per month. That is perhaps a very manageable problem, and you can still do it with, without much automation in-house, as long as somebody who creates content can act as a source of truth and fact check. But if you're a bigger company and say your volume of content production is much higher than that, I'm talking about perhaps tens, if not hundreds pieces of content. And here it's important to note, I'm not just talking about marketing content. It can be any consumer facing information, which could be there for educational, informational, and other reasons. So if that's your case, I would certainly be advising to use an automated solution that can address this scale, Content Lift by YAi being one of them. As far as I know, and I hope I'm not going to regret saying this, but as far as I know, there is no other solution for business use that currently exists that can fact check content automatically. There are some solutions for government and media use out there, but nothing for businesses. And that's why we laser focused on that. And we go one step further. Instead of just fact checking and telling you this is a wrong fact, we actually tell you how to correct it. So we list a suggestion on how this sentence can be reworded so it is factually correct.
Perfect. One last quick question, and that is, so most of the companies listening are crossing borders or have crossed borders and so on. And so content then is in multiple languages. Does that add complexity to this process? Because obviously you probably start with one, whatever the home language is, you start in that language, but then optimizing it for other cultures or languages later. How are there things to consider as you're crossing borders?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And actually, today I was just discussing, translating our YouTube channel to 12 languages, for example. The fact that you can do it in this day and age within one day using, again, AI is just mind-blowing. And it costs you a tiny fraction of what it used to cost you when you would, require professional services for this matter. So, but it also creates the challenges, as you rightly said, because if you replicate errors across 12 languages, it's a problem. And particularly if you don't speak all these languages and can't really pinpoint this problem yourself. So most likely your audience will come back to you saying, this is incorrect. And that's exactly what you as a business or brand want to avoid. So I guess, yes, my recommendation would be to, before going full-blown, before going full steam ahead with your content, translating it, maybe even optimizing it for specific regions, do make sure that your single source of truth is correct. Your original version is there 100%. So it's factually correct. It's on brand. It delivers the message that you want. And then, of course, by all means, use the tools at your disposal to translate your content into multiple languages so that people in different territories could find you. Because as somebody rightly pointed out to me today, even if you are targeting, say, English-speaking markets, which is the case for us, for YAi, you're not going to ever say no to, say, a Brazilian company coming to you with a 50K contract, right? So it is important. It's important to be omnipresent and to be able to showcase your product beyond the borders.
Thank you for taking the time today, Yana. It was really, really great to hear more about what you're doing and how we can all do better at creating, not just efficiently creating content, but effectively creating good content.
Absolutely. And if you allow me, Bill, a quick plug from ourselves. YAi is actually fundraising. So we have a small round open right now until Christmas 2025. And we are super interested to hear from investors in this space. Angel investors is our preference. We love smart money. So please do get in touch if what we do is of interest.
Super. Well, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Bill. You too.